Welcome back to your two favorite TikTokers. I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend, Keegan Jones.
Radio started from something simple I noticed working in a pizza shop. Every time someone had a horrible experience, they left a review, and when someone had an amazing experience, they left one too. But the majority of customers, the ones who had a normal visit, never said anything. That silence was hurting small businesses because the only people posting online were the extremes. I kept thinking, what if there was a way for people to leave feedback right there before they even walked out? Over the summer, I started quietly developing the idea on my own. I didn't really tell anyone, and I just kept working on it, designing layouts, figuring out the flow, and by the end of the summer, I had a complete base model done. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. That changed when I met Drew. At the time, he was the president of the Entrepreneurship Club, organizing meetings, trying to bring students together, and pushing people to think beyond classroom projects. Drew, when you first took over the club, what were you trying to turn it into? Like, what did you actually want it to be?
I wanted it to be a thought incubator hub. Just throw your ideas out there. Let's go for it, and we go from there. Just a a place, whether it was actually in the board meeting or just a group chat. That is the place, but people could have their voice heard. I think 18 to 22-year-olds, like, we are the innovators. Like, we have these ideas, we haven't been shot down, no, our whole corporate life. So it's like, let's give it a shot. So that was the first thing, and then building something to look back on and say we did a good job. Entrepreneurship clubs at a small campus is very difficult, and I really just wanted to build a culture and a community to where we're working towards something together. We have to play by the rules, but let's stretch the box. And I think we successfully did that, especially at a small school.
I remember everyone was going around, sharing ideas. We mentioned doing lemon shake-ups as a fundraiser, just anything we can do to really make money. And I also remember sitting there thinking, this is fine, but our time is worth more than that. We had people in the room who actually wanted to build something real. Meeting, I finally decided to show everyone the wireframe I had finished over the summer. And that was the first moment where radio stopped being, just an idea and started feeling like something that we could collaborate and build on.
Blowing up.
From there, everything started happening very fast. We had meetings outside campus. We were planning, testing, and realizing we might actually have something. So let's walk through that step by step. When you first saw the wireframe, what stood out to you most about the idea?
The process behind it. I think, Keegan, you created a process and a system that I never even thought of. And then, once I removed myself from, the shiny object syndrome, it was like, there is value in this in so many buckets. Let's go. Like, full steam ahead. And, that's just me being optimistic. Let's Drew thinking about the next thing. But really what it comes down to is fostering that environment to where we were never going to do lemon shake-ups, but that was, checking the box, playing inside of the box. But having the environments where I was able to create a culture where you could tell me about what you created, whether, dude, it could have been picking up dog poop on the side of the road or building a wire framework that's sold a business 6 months later. So that is like the best thing about like seeing, we were able to have so much confidence, and we had so many silly ideas from, hounds to food to whatever it was. But really what made radio different was I had a subject matter expert in this thing. You built it, and I already had the trust and confidence in you as, one, you were the vice president, but two, like, just a good dude. Like, I knew you were a good dude, good head on your shoulders. And like, that trust was there, and it was like, dude, this is Keegan's baby. Keegan's going to want to take care of his baby, so why not? I want to be a part of that. So that's what made it special.
You mentioned the shiny object syndrome, and I feel like a lot of people don't have direction, and something, comes in their life, and they say, okay, full steam ahead on that. For students who, may not have any direction of what they want to do right now, how do they handle that? What do you do when you're just going through day by day? How do you get out of that rut?
How do you get out of the matrix of being a cog in the wheel and doing all those things? It's having your goal. So whatever that looks like to you, I think we touched on, success and happiness, and that is different for every single person. It's having that goal and working a little bit, 1% every single day towards that. That is your driver in the back of your mind. But if your ethics, if your morals, if your intentions are pure, I truly think like no matter what you do, you can be successful in that. And remember, whatever you're doing, it's for you as well. Like, not be selfish, not don't be selfish, but be confident and like have the illusion that like I am going to kill it. I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this work, and this is what's going to tip me over to get to my goal. Goals change all the time, as we talked about, but really just one day at a time, put yourself in the perspective of, be where your feet are, all those cliches, just live in the moment. But have that back burner in the back of your head to where it's like, man, I gotta go. Like I gotta work.
From the early introduction to the wireframe, we started, finalizing development, but we also tested it around local Indianapolis businesses. Why do you think it was beneficial to start with the local mom and pop shops rather than, use our greatest connections to try to get it into somewhere big and corporate?
I knew we could get in the door, and I was confident in ourselves with that. One, it reinforced my confidence in you and I. Like, dude, we were cold pitching, doing crazy things. That's just like, we have no idea who these people are. We're going to go into their business. We're going to set a meeting, and we're going to give it a shot. Learning those skills for you and I think it was invaluable. That was like, when we look back on the business, monetary value aside, saying you sold the business aside, like those are the fundamental skills that are going to carry us for the next 30 to 40 years. And just having the confidence that we could do it, but also like we could get in the door with mom and pop. Of course, we could utilize our network and maybe get in the door with a, nationwide corporation, whatever that looks like, a franchise corporation, pizza shops, whatever that would have been. Like, of course we could have done that. But really, one, it was capturing the reviews. So when you think of mom and pop, maybe they have 5 reviews. So I think early on, we were saying we're going to 5x your reviews. 5x looks way better from 5 to 25 than maybe 1,000 to 5,000. We just weren't at the capacity to probably handle 4,000 reviews like that. But it helped. One, it was the data, so we could get in. So I guess I'm looping around myself. Really, like the 3 points was we could get in the door and capture the data. Huge. 2, our deliverables looked better with the mom and pop. We were providing a great service to them. Our value to them is greater than us going to a franchisee corporation, think McDonald's. And then 3, the relationship we could build within. As we knew, we probably weren't going to be able to turn a profit at these, mom and pop shops. However, it wasn't about that at the time. We weren't, we have to get out of the red now or we're going to sink. Very blessed and fortunate that we were able to do that. However, like being able to get the pilot for free, we're going to provide you so much value, hands down, why we went mom and pop route.
If you were approached with another idea from another student and they said, okay, I want to go local again, what would you do differently now knowing, what would you do differently now having Rateo under your belt?
If we were approaching small businesses, the marketing aspect, I think we could have tapped more. I think we could have provided more value in ways that you and I, our skills are there. That didn't make any sense. I think you and I could have provided more value in different buckets as well. So, say the idea was Rateo V2. We could have provided some more marketing, or we could have provided more accessibility to this company just as 2 college students and our skill sets. And I think with the mom and pop side, I think our touches were good. I think we had good communication with a majority of the businesses. Maybe having a launch could have been better, like maybe collaborating with a business where it's like 7 to 8, Rateo's launching, review night, buy one get one free pizza, whatever it is. But honestly, I think we did a good job capturing the local mom and pop. It was all relationship based, and I think you and I did a really good job at that. So really just adding more value outside of what the service you're offering.
For the pilot program, there were 1 month terms, and we would lend out these iPads without any contract. They could have fully just taken the iPad for themselves. What did that make you realize about being detail oriented, especially because one of the iPads we received back was cracked on the screen?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the strengths of the team around you. Kind of, towards the end of Rateo is you and I. And especially the go-to-market stuff. And with that, I'd say if you put us in a room of 50 people, they probably wouldn't say Drew and Keegan are the two most detail-oriented people that can check boxes and make sure everything is there. We were the quote-unquote visionaries of this. We were thinking big picture, long-term, how to maximize efficiencies, where to do these things correctly. And you need that in the company. So I think where we could have benefited was having more of a complementary piece to you and I. That could have, a contract maker, whatever that their task would have been to, hey, you can't steal this iPad. Hey, you can't just break this iPad. Those were things we didn't even think of just because we had the trust in these businesses. And of course, handshake deal is just as good as an on-paper deal. They both stand up in court. So it's like, if it would have ever gotten to that point, we could have defended ourselves. But I think we could have benefited with a complementary piece. And that comes with looking in retrospect and, thinking backwards. It's like, that's where we could have done better. But it's also like learning, going far out now, like you're never going to give somebody an iPad without having a contract. We're never going to do work expecting nothing if we're not going to have something in writing. Like these things that we've learned now are just as beneficial as selling the company at the end of the day.
And then from the pilot program, we transitioned into paid. So we went from $0 a month to $300 a month. And sometimes for these coffee shops and the local mom and pop, bookstores, that can be a lot of money for them. However, going back to the first one that we pitched, we went in there, nervous, all dressed up, sat down, showed them the results, the 48%, I shouldn't say the 48% increase, that calls them out. Sat down, showed them the results, and then they asked, how much is it to continue? And we dropped the price on them, and that kind of shocked her for a minute. But then we also went through, all of the features again, saying, hey, you'll still have this, this, this. Here's how we'll improve. And she looked at us and said, I didn't even know it could do all of these things. Where do you think we went wrong with that and not explaining, the full app and what it can offer?
I think it comes back down to onboarding. Onboarding is the key to retention. I've probably said that to you 1,000 times. Where we went in the pilot, we were getting a point of contact, and we had faith in that point of contact was our right person. We probably should have filtered out a little bit more once we were in the door, say, hey, who is your decision maker? I want to ensure that we're giving you a whole product scope overview. So, we had 15 minutes that first day to like, hey, we want to run a pilot program in your store and to get them on board. The LMS was great value, but it wasn't the shiny object. So in the pilot program, we were like, hey, shiny object, like, please say yes to us. We need data. However, with that, we weren't really emphasizing the LMS and all the back-end stuff that Rateo, really, that's probably where the most value is, sending touches to your clients. So it comes back down to onboarding. How can you get in with the decision maker, and how do you just really be transparent in what you're offering? So that's where that shortfall came. And then I think, pricing, And what we were able to do towards the end was, okay, we have this $200 iPad as well. Like that, we're factoring that into our cost basis. And it's like, I was at a ice cream shop in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. And I said, I think I called you at the time. And I said, Keegan, like, what are these things? Like, I have no idea what they are. Again, like, I am not a subject matter expert on this stuff. And that's why I loved working with you. It's like, you had the answers. And you go, Drew, they're NFC chips. And I said, man, this could cut our cost. Like, these people, these, random shops I'm going into, they're having these taps. And it's like, well, okay, does that disrupt our business as a whole? The answer was no, because we had the LMS on the back end. And that's where we fell short at in the pilot programs, I'd say in April and May, is saying that, we weren't emphasizing that enough. And I think with the reoccurring revenue, so one, the NFC chip would cut our price tag, but then we could compete with the other NFCs. Say, hey, man, this is all you need. Choose us over them. Maybe you're paying a monthly subscription fee. However, you're getting this much in return now. I think if we would have prolonged radio, that's probably the avenue we would have went. But it's easy to say that in retrospect. But really, and then, the pricing, that just whatever we were offering, that's where mom and pop shops hurt. That's why our pilot program was so good there, because we got our data and value. However, we always kind of had the feeling, man, this is like half their rent per month. Like their overhead, their margins are so small and their overhead's already high. This subscription is just going to tip them over, and they're not going to, their ROI on radio was probably 4 to 6 months down the line. Building their book of valued customers and most loyal customers, it probably would have taken 4 to 6 months for them to get that monetary turnover that radio would have then eventually offered.
We did the 5 pilot programs, and then we transitioned into the paid. How do you know when to start charging businesses instead of testing it for free?
Once we had our data, once we had, this is what we do, it works, the proof is in the pudding. As you say, Hormozy, like the value equation, our value was there, and that was a fact. So once we had all of our, kind of intangible working out all of the kinks in the pilots, like that's really what we were doing as well, like stress test the app. Once we were confident in that, it was a no-brainer. Hey, man, let's see if we can get some cash flows in. And really, I think, pricing was another thing that, our overhead was just so high. It would have been difficult. We would have been a volume company. We might have had to be in the red for, a long time. We're getting some cash flows, but we're not even in the green per customer until we hit, 50 reoccurring revenues. And that was just, it wouldn't have been possible for just you and I. And I know that for a fact. Just 2 people trying to run 50 businesses on a monthly retainer as full-time college students, that probably would not have worked. There's so many good ideas in college students and just people in general. What I found in radio was that the businesses that was there, what I found in radio that was so special, that the business was there without Keegan Jones. You could remove Keegan from the system, and radio was a tangible asset that provided value. How did you, as the entrepreneur, the engineer behind radio, how were you able to remove yourself from that system so early on?
I think whenever you're building something, you have to clearly, and this is not my piece of advice either, you have to define, is this something that you want to hold on to until you retire, or is this something that you want someone to purchase? And if the answer is if you want someone to purchase it, especially at an early stage, you cannot be the business. I think a lot of people, whether it's photography or jewelry making or mowing lawns, they are the business. Like you take Drew out of the mowing lawn business, there is no business. It's just manual labor. You're trading your time for money. But if you make an asset that can run by itself, Tim Chusano said, you build the train set, but then you let the train run and operate and function. That is something that is purchasable because they are not purchasing you. Yeah. That makes sense.
And I think the realization that you had that really early on, I don't even think we talked about, like, man, this is something. I think we both had the preconceived notion where it's like, yes, like, we don't need radio, doesn't need us, we need radio. um that was deep and like philosophical, but it really was true. I think the train set example, like, when I look back on it, it's like, man, we could just watch the train run, and that felt good to know you have something that's working when you don't even need to be there. For example, you said like mowing lawns and shoes, and I'm just sitting here thinking like, man, when I resold sneakers, like, it was me. Like, manual labor, you're trading your time for money, and it's like I still have all those shoes. They just sit there now. It's like if I wanted to hop back in, it's time for money. So what's your ROI on that? We built something, and I think that's the most important thing for viewers, college students to listen. Please, like, your ideas are so valuable, and having the confidence to tell somebody, that's like the first step. But then, like, telling it to somebody that's going to believe in you, but can think and say, okay, Jimmy John, how can we take you out of this business and make it sustainable without us? That thought and changing your mindset into that is crazy. I mean, I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. And we've had calls with people where it's like, you are the business. Like, you are great. Like, 100% you are phenomenal. This can take off. But you're the business. So long term, if you're not, it's really hard to be bought in for something for 40 years. We see a lot of entrepreneurs, they love what they do. 30 years down the line, man, they hate it. Like, they hate it. You see the same thing with athletes. Like, football player my whole life, I don't even enjoy watching NFL games anymore. It's like, how can you take yourself out? And I think that's a great piece of advice.
How do you stay hungry after already reaching a goal, most people chase for years?
I think that is a great question, and we were talking about that yesterday. It's always something next. It's always something else. Like, we didn't have a big radio celebration dinner. We talked about it probably 4 or 5 times, and it was like, man, whatever we did, like the crazy counter, however many times I told you, Keegan, this is crazy. But then kind of after that, it was back to normal life. Like, nothing in our lives changed, which is great, and it really touches on our sustainability. Like, one, our friendship has progressed, but 2, it's always the next goal for us, which is probably a double-edged sword, especially for me. It's like something I'm working on, especially internally. It's like you have to chase that next goal, but you have to chase the next goal, but you have to chase the next goal, but you've already accomplished so many of these goals that you said were going to make you happy. Like, looking back on your life, you've already done so many things that you were like, when I accomplish this is going to be it. I'm going to be so happy, and then life's going to be great. That's not how life works. It's always something else. So I think being appreciative, really, that's something I'm working on. And I think it's you as well. Like, we're 2 really hungry individuals, and we talk about, what's next, what business venture, what are we going to do when we graduate. So many of these different tangible assets that we're chasing. It's like, man, enjoy the process, Keegan. Like, we're 20 and 21 once. We sold a business. How can we just be happy? I think that's the $1 million question. What is happiness? Keegan, you accomplished this huge goal that you had set for so long. How do you manage the success of that? But then how also do you not get complacent in the success that you've had? And, what's the balance between hungriness and complacent to where kind of that middle ground of you just being happy?
Being complacent is something I think I'm struggling with right now. Graduating in December, it's kind of just day by day. Okay, we'll figure this out once I graduate, but for right now, we're just kind of smooth sailing, which is not how I usually am. I like to see progress. Like, I like to see, if I'm in the gym, I start at 160 pounds, I'm up to 195 pounds. Like, that's progress. That's numbers that I like to see. But after exiting something you put so much time into, and then realizing, okay, now what, is always, it's a weird feeling. However, you can't, I can't get caught up in the fact saying, oh, well, I sold a business last year. That is my whole identity, right? It's okay. I graduate in December. I'm not going to wait until December to figure out what I want to do because December's not even promised. I could walk out of here and get hit by a car and die. Like, nothing is promised. I feel like a lot of students always say, I'll do this when I have this. Like, I'll start filming when I get a new phone. I'll start editing when I get a new laptop. I think that is a big killer too. It's like you're always searching, when I have this, when I have that, that's when I'll start. But I believe starting is the biggest thing. I believe finding something that you want to go after and actually putting in the reps and trying to achieve it can also make you feel not getting complacent, realizing I might not have this app anymore, but tomorrow is not promised, and I cannot get stuck on the idea that I sold a business a year ago, so I should hold myself on a pedestal saying, I did this, you didn't, but realizing I can learn something from everyone. Everyone is more knowledgeable in certain topics that I am not, and how can I use that, and how can I learn from other people to go on to my next venture knowing what I know now.
Yeah. And I think what that comes back down to is you didn't say it, but it's action over perfection. And you say that all the time in a day-to-day life. You just have to start. You can't film unless you get the new phone, and screw that. Start filming on your broken phone. Like, taking the action is phenomenal, and that's something that you preach all the time, and I want to give you your flowers on that. But it's also like what you said, you have to take other people's perspectives, and other people know more than you. You cannot hold yourself to a higher standard than anybody else. As we've learned from Tim, it's like, how can I judge you? How can I say I'm going to walk in your shoes better than you? You've had this whole life before me. I'm just meeting you at this very moment. And it's like, we were at the top of our games. You sold the business. You had built this for over a year. You were at the top of your game. It's functioning. And then the next day it's gone. And now you're expecting to start working on something to where you just were left off at. But it's like, you don't remember the days where it was you're building instead of, we were at the point where we were implementing. And I just want to say, man, you're doing a great job. Like, having, what I posted a TikTok the other day, like, your best is more than good enough. Like, even you just kind of touching on, you went straight to the complacent part of the question rather than the happiness part. Like, you're thinking about what's next. And that's twofold. What, comparing yourself to others, you can't do that. But just being in the mental space that you're in, and you're thinking and you're trying to figure it out, like, you don't have to have the right answer. And viewers, you don't have to have the right answer. And just remember, like, whatever you're doing, if you're giving it your best effort, if you're trying your hardest, if you're doing it with good intention, like, it's going to work out. It has to work out. You're not going to win at all costs. Remember that. Don't win at all costs. But remember, you're going to damn well win. Like, that's the most important thing.
Thank you for your time.
Boom.